If you want to see what cars of the future will look like, you need only look at concept cars of the past. Hello everyone, today we're taking a dive into the wacky world of concept supercars. From canopy Ferraris to shape-shifting spandex BMWs. These are the most insane and sometimes the goofiest concept exotics from every decade. As we travel through the years, the technology used in these prototypes gets crazier and crazier, so you might want to stick around to see what the future has to offer. Starting things off in the 1970s is this capsule from the prancing horse. Ferrari teamed up with Pininfarina to debut the 512-based Modulo concept at the Geneva Motor Show. It's comprised of two overlapping body shells separated by what's called a rectilinear indentation, or in layman's terms, that red stripe thing in the middle. It's also got a weird disco orb of controls in the cockpit, and of course I have to mention the massive sliding roof canopy. The Ferrari Modulo toured the world during the early 70s, showing off various different colors before being retired to a museum. Nowadays, it's owned by an enthusiast collector and has been fully restored with a street-legal 500 horsepower V12 in the back. The unique geometry earned this UFO nearly 24 design awards and a spot on an Italian stamp. It also gifts us this fantastic tongue twister. The modular module model modulates the modified modulus movement. Let's skip ahead to the 1980s, a time of boxy sedans and Japanese imports. But perhaps no concept car was more ahead of its time than Peugeot's Axia. It was more or less an evolution of the French brand's Quasar concept from 1984, and continued its space theme with a name based on Mars. The Axia was so incredibly revolutionary, it's kinda hard to know where I should start. Unlike most concepts, it was fully operational, with a mid-engined 670 horsepower, 2.8-liter twin-turbocharged V6. Not to mention four-wheel drive and four-wheel steering, which was pretty groundbreaking for 1988. Even the interior was complete with an onboard radio telephone and personal computer, which could be seen as a rudimentary version of the modern infotainment system. Most impressively, it was tested to a top speed of 217 miles per hour, which would have made this the world's fastest production car, stealing the title from Ferrari's F40. Sadly, Peugeot never made more than one. Many enthusiasts consider the 90s to be the greatest automotive era of all time, a perfect mix of tactile analog and modern performance features. And I'm not gonna lie, there were so many insane concepts from this era, I had a lot of trouble choosing just one. From the Bentley 110s to the Ford GT90, Lamborghini Cala, and even the Audi Avis. There are just so many exotics worthy of a spot on this list. But the one that stands out most is the Volkswagen W12. Glossing over the ridiculously attractive Ital design exterior, the real meat of the W12 was located in the back. See, this car served as an engineering test bed more than anything else. Volkswagen used it to experiment with the W configuration motors that would ultimately be used in cars like the Continental GT and Veyron. And oh, it was wildly successful. There were 3 iterations of the W12 made, and the most powerful Nardo variant made 591 horsepower from a 6-liter naturally aspirated motor. To this day, it still holds the 24-hour speed world record, after it traveled 4,815 miles in a single day, averaging over 200 miles per hour the entire time. Oh boy, things are about to get weird as we enter the early 2000s. This is the period where we saw such magnificent creations as the Chrysler ME412 and Maserati Birdcage. But the BMW GINA leaves competition in the dust when it comes to bizarre and wacky innovation. GINA stands for Geometry and Functions in N Adaptations, and well, I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I am sure this is my least favorite car on the list. By a long shot. See, while it's based on the BMW Z8 and looks a lot like it from some angles, the GINA is actually built over an aluminum wire frame, controlled by a series of hydraulics and electric actuators. On top of this Transformers-esque chassis is a material described as polyurethane-coated spandex. It's lightweight, semi-translucent, water-resistant, and most importantly, flexible. This body allows the GINA to shape-shift for aerodynamic and aesthetic purposes. While that sounds cool theoretically, In practice, I find the GINA to be an oddly unsettling and uncomfortable car. The headlights can open or close in an eerily eye-like fashion. A rear spoiler can extend from the mesh, and the doors swing up to create a ripple effect on the side. Worst of all, the front-mounted V8 motor is accessed via an opening tear on the cloth hood, in a manner that just doesn't do the name any favors. The GINA definitely resides in the uncanny valley of the automotive universe. Moving quickly along to the 2010s, here we find a series of much more friendly concepts. Citroën Survolt, Jaguar CX-75, Renault Desire, all fascinating projects, but I wanted to take a look at a more underrated and often forgotten one-off concept, the McLaren X1. The entire X1 was created for a single anonymous client. We don't know who that anonymous client was, but we do know the X1 is based on a McLaren 12C, meaning it has a carbon fiber monocoque chassis and a 600 horsepower twin-turbo V8. When it was unveiled in 2012, the crowds of McLaren aficionados were split by its polarizing style. Some loved the retro-futuristic features, while others were horrified by the irregular bodywork. The X1 hinted at a few design elements that would be used in future McLaren models, but the real party trick was the sliding panels, which could transform to allow rear wheel access. This was one of the first and biggest projects ever undertaken by McLaren's Special Operations Bespoke division, the same people who are responsible for legends like the Velocity 720S and Gulf Oil P1, and yet it's still nothing compared to what's coming up next. We've only been in the 2020s for a few years now, but already there are some truly spectacular concept exotics. One of those is the Alpine A4810, designed as an interpretation of how supercars could look in 2035. It's hydrogen-powered and makes use of some mathematical aerodynamic concepts dreamed up by a team of design students in Italy. Integrated headlights, raised fenders, and flying buttresses contribute to a functional yet beautiful design. Even the name has a purpose. It refers to the highest peak in the Alps at 4,810 meters. The provocative exterior has been compared to a fighter jet. And if this is what the future looks like, then I'm totally on board. Hey you! If you're still here, thanks for watching the video. I had a lot of fun researching these wild cars, and I really hope you enjoyed it too. There are a few similar videos linked on the screen now if you want to fall deeper into the world of affordable exotics and crazy rare concepts, but if you don't have time today, maybe hit the subscribe button so you can come back later. Peace!